holding this gentleman back here hostage. So just don't mind him at all. None of y'all have ever done something like that before, right? All right. Excited to have you out here tonight. So who's ready to learn? Grow. Awesome. So any wins from some of y'all that got to attend last time, 2 weeks ago, that anyone wants to share? Any wins?
I'm feeling better because I'm doing my exercise.
Yeah, there we go. That's a win. Perfect. Love it. Cool. Well, so we're going to be talking today about eat well, heal better. And the big focus for us is really how to fuel your body. And I think that's the frame that I want to have tonight is how can you fuel your body? You know, what can you put inside that's going to help it to function at its best, to heal at its best, and to give you the most energy. Cool. So even like when we're talking about things to focus on, we'll have things to limit, but I don't want to go to these extremes of like, you know, cut all this out, only eat this. Like I want to more focus on the positive aspects when it comes to nutrition. And so especially like food, you guys will probably agree with this, gives us calories, right? Gives us fuel. And more importantly than that though, it gives our body instructions. So what we put in helps to be building blocks, and that can be instructions to affect energy, right? It can be instructions to help with recovery, inflammation, hormones, and performance. So let's get into this. I'm sure y'all would agree with the statement right here, right? Food matters. Food does matter. So the typical American diet today contains foods that, while they'll keep us alive, we've seen that, don't fuel us well at all. Some foods will help sustain life, but others will actually compromise your performance and your long-term health. So the standard American diet, so we're going to refer that tonight as SAD. Let me move this a little bit so everyone can see. The SAD diet is high in calories. It's high in calories, but it's low in nourishment. So you have low nutrient density, and then it is pro-inflammatory. Okay? So those are important things. And so for tonight, as we're going through, take notes. But at the end, too, I'm going to give you an opportunity to write down just one takeaway. Like, so this one thing is what I'm going to focus on. Because again, we want to limit overwhelm and really empower you to, okay, this is the one thing that I'm going to focus on for the next week or month. So when it comes to standard American diet, these are a lot of the common things that Americans eat on a regular daily basis. And while yes, they will help keep you alive, they definitely do not fuel your body. And so we're going to talk about fueling your body with good nutrition, that idea of fuel. So if we have a high performance engine, like a sports car, they only put the real good stuff in it, right? Because if they put just what we put in our cars, it's going to perform poorly, and that engine is going to risk blowing out pretty easily because of the poor fuel that you're putting in. And y'all ever made the mistake of putting diesel fuel in a regular engine? Hopefully not, right? Okay. Don't do that, by the way. But so even fuel, we know this for different types of engines matter. And if you have that high performance engine, you want to fuel it with high octane fuel. So a good question to ask yourself is, what type of fuel am I putting in my body? Is it something that's going to help me to perform at my best? Or is it going to cause my engine to break down the road? Now let's talk briefly about calories. I agree that they matter. But so much of our diet programs that are out there focus so much on just calories in versus calories out. So they do matter, but the quality determines the response that your body gets from the calories that you take in. I'll give you an example of this. But calories, it measures energy production. But quality will then determine your metabolic response. So how your body can then use the calories that you're fueling it with. And so then that creates hormones, inflammation, and recovery. Okay? So let's take these two fuels. Same calorie count, 150 calories. And so some of the diet programs will say, hey, you know, you can eat as many of these as you want as long as you eat only 2,000 calories or less. And y'all ever watch that guy that solely ate McDonald's? What was that called? Y'all remember? I can't remember. It's been a while. But anyways, and then we have almonds. So one, the Twinkies are going to spike your blood sugar and leave you hungry. Maybe you've experienced that, right? When you eat foods that are highly processed, high in sugar, you don't feel satiated, and you can get that crash into a bad later. Versus this, it's going to help with good healthy fat, minerals, and protein. Okay? So that's the idea of what we're going to focus on, is the type of fuel that you're putting in your body. So we're going to talk about the 3 essential fuels here tonight. So fixing your fats, perfecting your proteins, and then curbing your carbs. So these are all different types of energy sources that your body will utilize to produce hormones, to help with inflammation, to help with healing. So let's start with fat. So question, is fat good or bad? It is good, right? Well, I would say it depends. But fat has definitely had a bad reputation over, really since this low-fat movement that happened in the 1960s and 70s, where we stripped a lot of the fat out of our products and then started advertising low-fat, 94% fat-free. And you can still go to the stores and see a lot of that advertising that's there today. And then we had this rise of margarine and industrial oils. So especially if you're writing something down, this industrial oils is a big, big problem in our food supply today and creating bad fuel. And then we have a decline in whole food fats like butter, meat, and what we'll focus on, which is good quality fats. So the simple answer is fat is good, and I would say it is a missing nutrient for most Americans today.
If you compare a low fat like the Hellmann's to the regular, they add more sugar in low fat stuff to compensate for the low fat. And then the regular has a higher amount of fats but lower in sugar.
Exactly. Or even like, you look at whole milk versus low fat milk, same thing. You strip away all the good, healthy fat that will satiate you, and then all you're left with is basically sugar water. So fat is essential. For example, cell membrane integrity, hormone production. There's a lot of talk today about hormones, testosterone, estrogen, those type of things. So we need hormones to help us function. And if you don't have good healthy fat going in your body, you're going to have a challenge producing hormones properly. Brain and nervous system support. So your brain and nervous system really rely upon fat to like coat, for example, the nerve fibers. And then absorption of vitamins. Any of y'all ever heard of vitamin D? We talked a little bit about it last week, right? So there are fats, your vitamins that need fat in order for you to absorb them appropriately. So again, like we talked about, if y'all weren't here last week, vitamin D is an essential nutrient that you need to be taking on a regular basis, but you want to make sure that you're taking it with fat. So either take it at mealtime or get a vitamin D that has fat as the delivery system, if that makes sense. You don't want to take it just by itself because you won't get the good absorption. And then 2, fat supports whole body health. So fat actually can signal anti-inflammatory pathways to help reduce inflammation in your body and help your body heal better. Temperature organ protection as well. And then metabolic flexibility. Any of y'all ever heard that term before? So a lot of Americans don't have good metabolic flexibility because their primary source of fuel comes from carbohydrates. We'll talk about that later. But having metabolic flexibility to even get into your fat reserves to fuel your body. And that's where when you have a diet that's good, healthy fats, you'll also get satiated a lot easier. When you have a meal that's containing good, healthy fat and protein. So let's talk about quality. So I mentioned industrial oils, in particular industrial nut and seed oils are things that you really want to look at and limit your intake of. Trans fats, so those are like the worst of the worst, and you can really avoid those pretty easily if you just read your labels. And look for anything that says hydrogenated. If it's hydrogenated, it's terrible for you. These fats your body will use in production of cells. What it can do is actually create cellular digestion at the cellular level, where your cells have a hard time getting toxins out and then getting good nutrients in. And that's again a big problem with these trans fats, and then also these industrial seed oils like soy and corn, safflower and cottonseed, canola, and soybean olive oil. But really, if it is a nut or a seed, I would recommend trying to limit your intake of those on a regular basis. And then over here, these are the things that you want to try and increase your uptake on a daily basis. Olive oil is great for the body. Avocados, unless you're sensitive like me, unfortunately. I love avocado, and then I discovered that that's not so. So recognizing too, and that's important, like not every dietary plan, and even some of these fats, like your body might not react well to them. So it's also listening as you might be switching things out and recognizing, okay, that doesn't work for me, but this does. That makes sense. So yeah, like I'm sensitive to avocados and eggs, which normally most people will be great soup with. Butter, full fat dairy. So again, if you like eating dairy, if you can tolerate it, I would go for the full fat things. Full fat Greek yogurt, whole milk, butter, ghee. Y'all heard of that? It's another great form of butter that if you have a dairy intolerance, a lot of people can actually use ghee because it removes some of the sensitivities from the butter. Fatty fish like salmon and tuna, and then pasture-raised meats. And we're going to talk about protein in a minute, and a further recommendation I have. That is kind of a good overview right there, okay? And then we'll if you got questions about these things, hold until the end and I'll try and answer those. Okay, so that was fat. Perfecting your proteins. So, we all know protein's good, right?
Oh, it's working.
And something to think about is, and track, how much protein are you getting on a daily basis? Because I almost guarantee most of you are actually undershooting the amount of protein that your body needs to fuel itself properly. A good rule of thumb, if you're especially wanting to help kind of increase your metabolism and your energy and how you feel throughout the day, is trying to eat your weight in grams of protein. And see how that goes for you. But this right here, so fat and protein help to satiate your body the fastest. So if you have meals that the predominant thing that you're eating is fat and protein, which they usually go hand in hand, you're going to get satiated a whole lot faster than if you have more carbohydrates as kind of your base. That makes sense. So like you guys probably saw me snapping on pork rinds. You all eat pork rinds? Good stuff. So it's a great snack. These are at Walmart, believe it or not, and they are clean. So these are Pork King Good. That's such a funny name. Pork King Good. And this is their onion and sour cream one. And the only negative I would say about this is that it uses non-fat milk, but I'm not worried about that because when you look at the actual carbohydrates, it's 0 grams that are in there. So there's that, and then another thing that you can also get at Walmart is grass-fed beef sticks. So these are things that I eat on the regular to help, like if I'm hungry, eat protein. Cool. These build muscle, support immunity, and again, help regulate your appetite as well. So let's talk about this real quick. So when it comes to protein, here's a practical tip. If you buy organic, start with animal products. The number one thing I recommend buying organic, it's not the produce. If you want to invest more money into your health and your food, it's your meat first. There's a thing I like to say, you are what you eats. So there's research looking at, okay, the quality of a grass-fed steak versus a grain-fed steak. And then most of the time the grain-fed steaks too, because that animal is actually unhealthy. They're not meant to eat grains. They usually have to pump them full of antibiotics, hormones, and other chemicals to keep that animal alive until they can get it slaughtered. Versus a grass-fed cow, way better for the animal itself, because that's what it was designed to eat. And then in turn, it's healthier for us as human beings. So grass-fed beef, pastured poultry, and eggs. So the hierarchy when it comes to chicken is free range is tops, cage-free is next, and then at least organic. And usually if they're organic, they're at least going to be cage-free. Wild or responsibly sourced fish. So wild is best. Our sea, unfortunately, is getting more kind of toxic, but still compared to farm raised, wild is going to be your best bet. And then full fat dairy, like we talked about. So this would be my number one thing. Like, okay, I want to spend more, do it with your meat. Okay, and then let's talk carbohydrates. So I put this up here, use strategically, okay? So carbohydrates and energy go hand in hand. Carbohydrates can be a very quick energy source. So like if you feel like you need a little extra boost, eating some carbohydrates. But here's the thing, carbohydrates will have a strong blood sugar impact, okay? So especially if you struggle with regulating your blood sugar levels, weight loss resistance, your metabolism, it's not that carbohydrates are evil, but you want to use them strategically throughout the day versus it being your primary source of fuel and energy. So here's the things that I limit. I recommend limiting because these are highly processed. So a lot of times they're going to even have artificial sweeteners. They'll have maybe some of the industrial oils that we talked about as well. But two, like any of your white breads, grains, are going to be stripped of their fiber, and so you're basically just left with a sugar molecule when you're eating any type of white bread, pasta, and rice. And so that's going to have a direct and immediate impact on your blood sugar levels. Versus like if you do more whole grains and ancient grains, those have more of their original structure, the fiber, and so it takes your body more to process that, and so you get a little more offset of the carbohydrate impact on your blood sugar levels. Does that make sense? And then sugary drinks and candy, especially want to try and limit drinking your calories. All right. High fructose corn syrup. So too, like if you like soda and you want to drink soda, all right, I'm gonna have my soda today. Let's make it not to be cliche, but a Mexican soda. And you know why I say that? Because they use cane sugar, right? Real sugar versus this crap. And this is highly processed. It messes with your blood sugar levels. There's even research studies that I've read that it contains mercury, which we know mercury is like the most toxic heavy metal substance on the planet. So trying to avoid that. And then sugar substitutes. And to clarify that, that's going to be your artificial sweeteners, things like sweet and low, aspartame, sucralose. This does not apply to stevia. But even with stevia, still try to limit those type of intake as well. And so then, if you're going to have carbs, you want to choose more whole food carbs, the way that God designed them. So vegetables, especially your starchy carbs. A lot of people will eat and have been recommended, make sure you get your dark green leafy vegetables, right? Eat a salad. It's really good for you. So one thing that I want to throw out there is so many people have like upped their intake of that stuff, and it actually can create other issues like kidney stones, for example, and other problems as well, because of the high oxalate content of kale, for example, or spinach. So that's why I recommend focusing more on your starchy vegetables versus going for the leaves. And then fruits, and then even if you want to dig into that, trying to focus on like lower glycemic fruits. So that's going to be things like berries, Granny Smith apple versus your red apple, citrus fruits, but even like the hierarchy, limes and lemons, grapefruit, are going to be lower glycemic than like orange juice. Okay, and then bananas, like if you're trying to help regulate your blood sugar level better, bananas are very high on the glycemic level, and can have a similar effect as a Twinkie on your blood sugar level. Okay, and then two, whole grains, and again, if I put in there, if tolerated. So for some people, because their blood sugars levels are out of whack and their body doesn't process and handle things well because of insulin resistance. Sometimes taking a break from grains, period, can really help the body to heal better. Because even with the fiber, you still have a lot of the sugar molecules that can spike the blood sugar levels. Plus, many of the grains that are out there are laden with pesticides as well. So trying to go organic if you're going to do grains. Cool. All right. So one other thing I will mention when it comes to this, now, and I can open it up for questions, is this idea. So we talked about it earlier. You have your high performance engine, and then you want to fuel it with that high octane fuel, right? So we talked a lot about the fuel tonight. But the other thing, and this goes back to my talk last week, how's your engine? Because if my engine broke down, I busted a cylinder, does it matter what fuel I put in it? No. So that's where you want to marry good, healthy nutrition with good, healthy structure. Does that make sense? So when you get your body structured and your nervous system healthy, it then will receive the healthy nutrition and fueling it with. Cool. So it all kind of ties together. The more that you're just, layering things on. Okay, I'm having good spinal hygiene. I'm taking care of my nervous system. I'm helping my nervous system to be more in that parasympathetic state. Then, when you add in good fuel, your body, it just goes into that overdrive mode. The problem it can be too, we talked a little bit about like parasympathetic versus sympathetic. So sympathetic is your fight or flight mode. One of the things, think about it, if you're running away from a bear, do you think your body gives a crap about digesting that good, healthy steak that you just ate? No. And so that's where, for some, if this isn't healthy, you might be fueling it really well, but it ain't processing it well. And so that's why I always start with the nervous system first, because then when you start to make these other changes, it really compounds one on top of another. Okay, cool. So, let's get into our question and answer session. Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
The bananas.
Yeah.
I feel like, I think it was my husband or somebody that read at some point that, like with bananas, if you eat them before they get as ripe, that then it doesn't have as bad of an impact on you, as far as the sugar. Is that
Correct.
correct? And do you know then, do you still get the same nutritional benefit from that banana? Or do you know that?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I would think so. It's just you're not having near the blood sugar spike, but you'll still have very similar nutrients inside of it.
So would a less ripe banana, could it potentially be as healthy as maybe some of the other things that you mentioned that are healthier, or that it would be probably not, like when it's not rare, to where no one would eat it? I'm just curious because I like bananas and they're very sort of fantastic.
Unless you're like two natural environment, and then she just give me a banana, bring it back. Right.
It doesn't matter.
Crazy.
Okay, anyway, that's fine. Bananas are one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's too when you think about a banana, it's a whole food. So that compared to a lot of the other things that you could eat, if that helps you in your journey to feel like, okay, I'm accomplishing things because I still have things that I enjoy eating. Great. I mean, that's the whole idea of what I'm talking about tonight. Is thinking about, how can I fuel more in this direction that then helps me maybe limit more over in this direction. Would be the idea. Yeah. Because things will fail if it's like torture. It's
Right.
I'm giving up all these things that I love, and I feel like I'm not enjoying life. And then it's like, well, then what's the point?
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, because I've been told with being concerned about my potassium levels in the past, and I said, well, don't eat bananas, eat an avocado, you'll get more out of that, more potassium out of that. But I said I won't, because I won't eat them out of it. I don't want that. I don't like it.
Amen.
So, anyway.
Well, and then electrolytes too, like those powders, like Element. That's another good way too to get some of your electrolytes in a higher concentration. Coconut water is another good source of electrolytes and potassium. There's actually more potassium in that than banana, but some people don't like the taste of coconut water. So it goes back to the same thing.
Right.
Are you going to actually drink it? No? Okay. Bananas or the almond? Yes. Other questions? No? Okay. Let me pull up some of my questions. So, someone asked, do I need to count calories? Question, right? So my answer would be no. While calories matter, the quality has a bigger impact on your healing hormones and energy. So the more that you're focusing in on the fuel and not the quantity, the more, one, that you'll satiate yourself faster, and so then your caloric intake is going to come down anyways. And then two, you'll enjoy life a lot more versus this restrictive thing of, okay, how many calories is on my plate right now? Am I falling in line with where I need to be? So we talked about fat. Is fat bad for you? What was our answer?
No.
No. It depends on the quality, right? So whole food fats support brain and hormone health. Here's one. What about cholesterol? What do y'all think? Cholesterol, good or bad?
It's good. You need it.
Good. Yes, it's very good. So even what the medical community has labeled as bad, which would be your LDL, where does it come? Where does LDL come from? Your body. It comes from your liver. If it's bad, why is your liver producing it? Right? Think about that. If it's bad. So the reason they bring it up, LDL in higher amounts can get oxidized, and that oxidation can then start to clog up your veins. So it's not that the LDL itself is bad, it's the fact that your body is having to produce this for a reason. And the reason being, think of LDL if it's elevated as your body's fire department. And if the fire department's having to come out in force, what's happening? You're on fire. So higher LDL is indications that your body is in flame. Does that make sense? So it's not that the LDL is bad, it's that your body is intelligently producing it to try and help cool you off. So if you take a cholesterol med, not saying good or bad, but if you do that, and they've looked at this, artificially stripping cholesterol out of your body can actually work against your body's ability to heal, fight inflammation, those different type of things. A lot of people can end up worse. One effect that cholesterol drugs can have is affecting the brain. Also can affect your heart as well, because it's, again, affecting hormone production. Cholesterol is a part of hormone production. Should you cut out carbs? Well, we said no. They're powerful, but you want to focus on being strategic with the carbohydrates that you eat on a daily basis. And then, big thing, again, I want to frame this, we're not talking diet, we're talking about fuel and how you can help your body to perform at its best. So, any of y'all seen the new kind of food pyramid that was released?
Yes.
Any questions on that? Concerns? There's definitely conflicting information that's out there. So, based off of what I've kind of talked about, I think what the FDA has released is very close to a good, healthy, rounded diet. Because if you think about what I talked about tonight, what is at the top is just that. Good, healthy fats, protein, those type of fuels are really good for your body. And your body utilizes those too to help satiate itself and produce hormones, help with inflammation. And then at the bottom of that are the carbohydrates. Those carbohydrates, again, while being powerful, are not going to be a good satiator. They're not going to help you to have long-term energy and production. So most of, like, think about a marathon runner, when they're out there, what do they usually go to? It's carbs. And that can, again, be a good short-term fuel, but not good long-term for helping to fuel your body. Cool? All right. So, takeaways. Anybody got a takeaway? I'll put you on the spot.
I really like that you emphasize the grass-fed beef.
Of course, we're big brothers, so that's really important to me, but we eat a lot of that, so.
Great. It's really good for you too.
Yeah.
That's so I have about 5 days a week for lunch, a grass-fed ribeye. That's it. I put it on the grill, put a tablespoon of butter, fry it up, eat it. That's usually my lunch. If you want to find it inexpensive, going to local farmers can be a great way to help get a bunch of meat and inexpensive, and then support the local economy as well.
And my son has the chickens, and so we have his grass-fed chickens too.
Well, wow. So if you want a resource,
Anybody wants grass-fed eggs?
right here. Right here.
He has lots of them right now.
We got a hero in our midst right here. Okay, let's do a time and takeaway.
Well, the coconut water, I learned that that's got more potassium than bananas, so that's pretty good.
Call it God's sports drink.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, the flavor of it, like she said, mix it in with a smoothie with bananas or something else.
Exactly. Yep. Or another good thing too that I'll do is protein shakes. So I use grass-fed whey protein. So you could also put the coconut water in with your protein powder if you want to do that. That's also another good snack for me to help satiate. Is I'll put my whey protein in water, and then that's like something I'll have during the day, or sometimes just for breakfast too. Yeah. One more takeaway, and then we'll follow on that.
You know what's gonna happen.
So I really appreciate all of this. It's good for me, so that's my takeaway.
Okay. Is there one thing that you think you can focus on?
One thing I can focus on is my protein.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
Great. And I think that would help a lot of people is like, hey, let's get our protein intake up. Again, and that's like easy. Like, let me just focus on fueling my body. I don't know about y'all, I love steak. Like, let's go get some steak for lunch, or steak for dinner, and up that, or chicken. I mean, like, just eat more of it, and I think you'll notice the difference just in how you feel, and also needing to eat less of other things as well to get satisfied. All right, great. 2 weeks, we'll be back for Move Well, Live Well, and I don't want to hold him to it, but I think Philip is going to do our movement class. So he's got some great special knowledge, functional movement, different things like that. So I think very beneficial class for y'all to come back and learn some more about how to really move your body for health.
So you're actually on Monday or
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, so we're going back to Tuesday night?
It is Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. I know, but we do Monday
It was Tuesday last time.
Extreme.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you saying?